Hey guys, Coach Tommy here. Today I want to talk about protein, why it's important, and where we can get it. So a lot of us think of this image in the top left-hand corner. We think of our meats and fish and eggs, but you can certainly sustain a healthy diet and meet your protein recommendations being vegetarian or vegan. It's a little bit more challenging, but you can certainly get enough from plant-based sources. So why do we need protein? Protein is important for preventing infection, transporting blood and storing iron, creating hormones like insulin, and creating enzymes that help us digest our food. But what we mostly think about protein is, synthesizing lean muscle tissue, skeletal tissue, and repairing our body after we work out. What happens if we don't get enough protein? We're going to have lowered immunity, low energy, blood sugar imbalances, bloating, and other vitamin mineral deficiencies. And of course, if we don't eat enough protein, we're going to have that decreased muscle mass. What happens if we get too much protein? Well, it is true that we can get too much protein. It's more rare. People tend to be on the low end of the spectrum. They're not getting enough protein. But just like any other macronutrient, same with fats and carbohydrates, if you get too much, you're going to be in that positive energy balance, and it can cause weight gain. So any macronutrient in excess can cause a calorie excess and could cause weight gain. Too much protein could cause stress on the kidneys, and it could also cause trouble meeting the recommendations of fruit and vegetables per day. So if you're eating too much protein-rich sources, too many meats, that protein source is going to drive out food somewhere else. So if you're having too much protein, it could drive out the veggies that should be on your plate. So it's all about balancing, getting the right amount, getting enough, but not pushing out the other stuff that you need. Next, I want to talk about a term, bioavailability. So this is the degree to which a protein can be absorbed and used by the body. So if we look at this chart at the top here, we have a whey protein, which has a very high bioavailability. This is why we recommend it after workouts. It is very quickly absorbed and can help repair that tissue right away. And it's absorbed and utilized very, very well. That is the case for a lot of animal sources. So as we go down the list, the bioavailability index actually goes down when we start to go towards stuff like rice, beans, peanuts. Your leafy greens would be even lower. So not only are animal sources very rich in protein, but that protein is a type of protein that is very bioavailable. So it's very easily digested and used by the body. When we get into the plant sources, not only do plants contain less protein, but their bioavailability is less. And that even applies to their powders. So 20 grams of a whey protein isolate, which comes from milk, it's almost dehydrated milk, versus 20 grams of a pea protein, those will absorb differently in your body. You will get more protein from the whey protein than you would the pea protein. So a lot of times you might have to increase how much protein how many scoops, or maybe go 1.5 scoops if you're taking the pea protein, because you're going to need more of that to get the same amount of absorption. Here's a little graph depicting that. So if we have a whey protein and we're looking at it over time as it's digested and absorbed by the body, it gets absorbed very quickly and kind of fades off over here. Again, great for post-workout. We can utilize it very quickly. Another type of protein that there is out there is a protein called casein. And this is a great one I know a lot of people use before they go to bed, as it's more slowly released. So it'll kind of give you a steady stream of protein overnight while you're sleeping. Or if you're going an extended period of time without eating, or you're hungry all the time, this could keep your appetite satiated for a couple hours as it's slowly released. Another term here, complete versus incomplete protein. So there are 20 amino acids that make up proteins, and 9 of them are essential, which means they have to be attained by eating food. 11 of them are non-essential, which means we can make them. Our body's pretty cool, can make these amino acids. So those 9 essential amino acids have to be derived from food to get it in our diet. And a complete protein is one that has all of those 9 amino acids. So animal sources are always going to be complete proteins, whether it's egg, fish, meat. Those are going to be complete proteins, and they will have all of those amino acids. An incomplete protein is one that does not have all 9. It might have 4, it might have 5. But if you're trying to create a meal that is a complete protein or a complete protein meal, you can just mix and match plant sources, and whatever one plant source doesn't have, likely the other will. So if you mix rice with beans, neither of those is a complete protein, but when you mix them, they create they make a complete protein. So we have a little example here. This is a little chart you can mix and match. You could choose a bean or a lentil and mix it with a nut or a seed, and that will complement the other one and give you a complete protein. Moving on to the next slide here are our examples of those essential versus non-essential. So the ones that our body cannot make are these ones, the essential. They have to be derived from our food. And these 11 here, our body can actually make. So how do we put this into practice? Well, we've talked about this figure, and it will come up again. The hand size portion guide is a very good practical way to eyeball it instead of breaking out the scale. So 1 palm-sized portion of protein for females over here, actually. Males are going to need 2 palm-sized portions. So just the center part of your hand, if you choose a lean meat like a steak in this example, chicken, shrimp, men are going to have 2 palm-sized portions where females are just going to have 1. If you are having only plant-based sources as your protein, you may need to go a little bit more than that. If your whole plate is lentils, beans, vegetables, they're going to have both protein and carbohydrates. So that doesn't really apply to this example. This is going to be a protein-rich source. So this usually refers to your meats, your dairy, your eggs. Moving on to our next slide here. This is what's to come up later next week. So we're going to be talking about the difference between protein powders and whole food sources. So going forward, try to think about mixing and matching some of your plant-based sources to make a complete protein. So if you do have a animal source on your plate, it's always good to have some plant-based sources that contain protein as well. They're always going to contain some protein. Refer back to your hand size portion guide and your plate. So you want about 1/4 of your plate to be protein and the rest to be vegetables, maybe a small fat source. And think about increasing the quality of protein you're eating and maybe change up the sources that you're getting. So play around with different sources and experiment, try new things. All right, guys, stay tuned.